All right, so I guess it is. Hi guys, welcome to Investing with JYK, and this is not strictly investment related, but either way, it's my channel. I get to do whatever I want. So it's about this COVID-19. So whenever you say COVID-19, YouTube demonetizes your video. Congratulations, YouTube. But I mean, I understand why they kind of understand why they do it. So this is, I saw this thing, press release. So is that, is it, what does this actually mean? And then I started looking around, and I was like, okay, I actually missed out on a lot of information. So yeah. Oh, hi, Gegomaniac 3. Welcome to another one of the drunken JYK videos. And here's my beer. So, how do I do this? I want to go live chat. No. So, Gilead started phase 3 for Remdesivir. Yeah, okay, so Zivir, anything Zivir is like some kind of antiviral, I suppose. They have some weird naming convention. But so I started looking around, like, the information that I could find, and then what I found is quite interesting. This joint this is the joint press conference of WHO China thingy. They had a joint mission on 24th. So I'm like, freaking 7 days, not even 7. February had 29 days, so 6 days. I'm 6 days too late to this, but I guess it's better late than never. So some of you may know I'm fairly bearish on the whole situation. I think this stuff's gonna spread over the world, and nobody's gonna get spared. I mean, I still stand. I still think the same, that it's gonna spread over the world, but I think once it kind of leaves China, things will actually turn for the better. You will see why that is. Okay. Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks, Gekomaniac. I will try to make it somewhat short, if I could help. Right. So the most important sentence in this entire freaking press conference is this: there's only one drug right now that we think may have real efficacy, and that's Remdesivir. Okay, so as you've heard about, so the craze of Remdesivir was like, it kind of started at the beginning of like February 20th or something like that, so like around there, and it suddenly kind of died down. It's very interesting why that is, right? Like, if this thing is effective, then you should have like continuous flow of people saying, oh, this is very effective, we tried it on these, even though we couldn't do like a large scale double blind test on patients. When we do it out of sympathy, they all kind of became better, and statistically it's just unlikely or something like that. But that didn't happen. And so that's the press release. And then I read the press release that was translated. Okay, this is the translation. Right? So I read the translation in Chinese, and this is the part. This says like the last. That brings us to the last point. Blah 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 blah. and then it mentions Remdesivir. Okay, and in here, that is really interesting. It let's see. This is says, and Caobing is having trouble recruiting patients, not just because numbers are falling, but blah 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 blah. And then this is they skipped the entire sentence. This became the only mention of Remdesivir, right? The sentence is here. It's like, for example, I saw Caobing's is harder to recruit. This is the sentence that says it's harder to recruit, and this is the that's what he, that's what he actually said. And I'll give you one good example, blah blah blah. And in the Chinese translation, the only thing that's mentions Remdesivir is that I think we think that Remdesivir could have, like, this is fucked. 预期效力, how the hell that expected efficacy. That's what they said, right, in the translation. But the actual thing is says the only drug right now that we think may have real efficacy is Remdesivir, as you've heard of it. So that's a much higher emphasis. And then in the Chinese one, it kind of disappeared. And then here is when you get into this whole Chinese mentality, because what's happening now is the doctors are told that you have to give them Chinese medicine, right? So it doesn't matter what happens. Like, if they come in, you give them traditional Chinese medicine, and most of that is crap. And then they end up, I think I said it before, they end up with just liver damage when they leave, right? So I don't know why they don't stick. Well, I kind of know, because it's not a Chinese drug, and then it's about saving face. Right? It's not a Chinese drug. So there are even more talks about it, about Remdesivir, which is in Chinese, which I'm not sure if it's translated outside China. So the guy that this place called Jinyingtan is a designated hospital for COVID-19 in Wuhan. So this is the center of the storm. Right? I don't actually know how to call them. The leader of that hospital. What is the leader of the hospital called? What is the leader of the hospital called? They call it what? The person who leads the hospital is hospital. What the fuck? No. Anyway, let's just call him the CEO of that company, of that hospital. Anyway, he's a guy. He's like a medical doctor or whatever. So what he's mentioned on Remdesivir is that he said they had 700 people in that clinical test. 400 of them are heavily sick, and then there are 300 that are not. They're mild. And then they used 2-to-1 as a ratio, and essentially, like, they gave 66% of the patients Remdesivir, and then 33% none, like a placebo. And what he said is that, but the clinical doctors were they easily can detect which drug is the placebo and which drug has the active ingredient, because they can feel, like, they can tell that the efficacy is significant and obvious, and it can stop the heavily sick from slipping into critical condition. Right, so that's what it says. I don't know what, I mean, if you had this, how many days are we past that? This thing is, that's 19th. It's been 10 days. Why are they not expanding the clinical trials? Right? I mean, it's kind of, it just makes me somewhat angry, because we have this drug, expand it, and then expedite this thing and push it in, and people may not die. I mean, but what's going on is they're like, yeah, it's not Chinese made, it's not invented by China, and then it's not a Chinese traditional medicine, and blah. Like, what the So, okay. So that's what you have. And here, there's a guy who's not also a doctor, I think. No, he's not a doctor. He's a master in some kind of medical related field that published something on a Chinese newspaper, and essentially, this one is saying that we have like 80 different ways of treating COVID-19, and it says on the 22nd there's no recommended treatment from WHO. Sure, there isn't, but WHO on the 24th said, okay, there is one that we think has real efficacy. Nothing else works. But that's 24th, and then we got so there's let's see, there's so I think I showed some of you this with the political correctness, right? That obviously that's taken down in China, right? So if you have to find the scraped version from somewhere else. Okay. This paragraph, and if you want to do a translation with Google Translator and to verify that, feel free to do that. It says the thing that they insist is using traditional Chinese medicine in the treatment of COVID-19. Every single patient has to be treated by traditional Chinese medicine. Doesn't matter the stage they're in, how serious the symptoms are, and then you basically just have to, given the symptom, there will be a set of this says herbal recipe, herbal prescription that you're just giving them, and then they end up, they said somebody developed abnormalities in their liver function, and sometimes they leave with this sentence is not grammatically correct. It literally translates to their liver function is 5 times higher than normal, but I think they're saying like some indicators of liver failure is higher than normal for 5 times. Okay. Well, I'll address some of the comments. Is that Polish beer? No, this is not Polish beer. This is cheap Chinese beer. As I said, Chinese only drink cheap beer. And then, yes, I'm Chinese and I drink cheap beer. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for the... Yeah, you're welcome. Stop spreading this info. We're all gonna die. Yes, we're all gonna die. I agree. Should I buy more EF? I don't know what EF is on. So, how does this change my view on this whole epidemic? Well, in fact, a global pandemic, really. Well, I think it's still gonna spread over the world, but people are gonna get saved. I think once this thing leaves clinical, this leaves clinical trial phase 3, which probably will happen within a month time, we're gonna conclude. I think I have fairly high confidence in this, maybe like 85-90% confidence on this. Like, we're gonna conclude Remdesivir is effective against this virus, and we're all gonna be saved. I mean, you may still catch it, you're gonna become very sick, but instead of not having any cure, you now have a cure. I mean, you may not be able to afford it, but at least in that case, maybe we'll have some kind of fund that everybody kind of bears the blunt, which personally I'm okay with. Like, right? And then I don't know how much Gillette is gonna make from this. I hope they make a ton, but it doesn't turn out. It doesn't seem like they are going to, because it becomes this humanitarian crap. But I think, like, yeah, they should make a ton. They should, in my value system, they should make a ton of money. Because, like, what is the value they provided? They provided just an outsized value to the entire world. Like, you would have to shut down everything. Now it's like, okay, it could become, in maybe a month's time, by which time I think the US infected number will go above 10,000, it become like, okay, if you're sick, stay at home, and if you get really sick, well, go to the hospital and you get your Remdesivir and then you don't die. And it becomes like one of those things. And in any case, 80% of the time, these are mild symptoms and you don't need to go to hospital anyway. So for the 20% of the people of the population that do end up catching it, you probably don't even need ICUs. You probably don't need to consume all the medical resource that we have. I mean, like, you don't come up with millions of nurses and doctors out of the blue, right? Like, it takes a few years to train these guys, and plus they may not even want to be involved in this crap. So yeah, that's basically my message. I think it's not as bad as I initially thought. And in terms of investment, Gillette, I don't know if they're a good investment. Maybe it's too late. Maybe the train has already, the boat has already left. And the other thing is, if it drops a lot, and where is the bottom? I don't know where the bottom is, but I know when the fear will reside, and then when the fear resides is when phase 3 concludes positively that we have a cure for this virus. And I think we're very lucky. You don't come up with a cure so quickly normally. This thing was developed for Ebola. And it was crap at treating Ebola. So, but the good thing about Ebola is, like, if you catch it, you kind of die very quickly. So you don't transmit your disease all over the place, and you don't transmit by aerosol. You kind of transmit by bodily fluids, essentially your shit and your blood and sperm and all that stuff. I mean, normally you don't touch people's shit and blood and sperm. So Ebola is actually much easier to deal with than this, from my understanding. And it was crap at treating Ebola. WHO was like, this stuff doesn't really work for Ebola. And then it turns out it was kind of effective against SARS. I don't remember where I read this, but it turned out it was somewhat effective against SARS. And then they tried it on COVID-19, and it was SARS were very similar to COVID-19. And then they were like, oh yeah, this thing works. And then you end up in China, and they're like, no, we won't give you patients that are untainted by other drugs. We will just taint other patients with random Chinese medicine that have never been tested. So it's actually, overall, I think the fear in the entire system would reside much faster than I initially estimated. And in terms of investing, it's always important to stay just one step before everybody else, one step ahead. So that one step ahead is that you kind of know what signal to look for to see when everybody else sees the light at the end of the tunnel. Right? So it's like knowing what others know what you know. And yeah. Alright, time to address more comments. What the fuck you guys said? It is snow beer then. No, it is snow beer. Holy crap. Oh, I didn't even know what I was drinking, but yes, it is snow beer. Low alcohol content though. Yes, it's like piss. EAF equals graph tag. I don't know what graph tag is. I doubt CCP or India would respect Gillette patent if they found it. No, well, Gillette basically said they're gonna give it for free. And even when they're giving it for free, we're not using it here. It's ridiculous. There's no reason other than just vanity, I would think. It's just like, I don't know. It's not the decision I would have made. Central banks can't force people to go out and travel, etc. I think it is a bubble. The bubble might burst, but at least you know the extent of the burst. Maybe in this case it will just be like a normal economic burst rather than like a pandemic that sweeps the population and kills off 2% of the population or even more. Have a look at CEIX, high quality TPO top management. I guess I'll look at it, thanks. Gillette stock has pumped to 75 and is back to 69, average before the pump. And all happened. Yeah, that is. I looked at the price chart and I mean, it kind of makes sense given the lack of news coming out of China. But now that they announced, which is basically 26th. When is 26th? 26th is Thursday. Shit, I'm going crazy. No, that is not. That's the. Why can't this be like Windows when you can just look at the dates? 26th. So in Wednesday, and it didn't go up. But maybe it's because they're giving it out for free. They're not charging. I mean, it feels like we owe them though. At least I feel like I'm somewhat indebted to Gillette, and a little bit. If this is the cure, it can't be possible. Get out to market in time. Yes, the production will. I'm not saying we can get this out. You know, the production is gonna be. It's hard to figure out and all that stuff. You need to get it, but a lot of that can be accelerated with additional funds. It cannot be made instant, but it can be accelerated with, you know, introduction of more funds. If your yield is 2%, okay, yeah. Is one way is you increase the yield to 4%. The other way is you just throw the double money at it, and then you make another plant that makes things at 2% at the same time, right? And that is a lag of maybe a month instead of like maybe half a year. Also, not everybody need this treatment. Most of them don't end up in critical conditions. All we want to do is prevent people from going into ICUs and take up these medical resources, which might be, it's a displacement effect. A bunch of people will die without catching this disease because the medical system is overloaded with COVID-19. And I mean, that's just people dying, but people dying doesn't really cause the market to fall. It's the fear itself that caused the market to fall. Right? I mean, 1918, the market only dropped 11%. You got, over the entire world, 50 million died from that stuff. As a percentage of the world population, it's much higher than, 50 million now. I mean, back then we had maybe like 2 billion people in the entire world. Now we have like 7. So think 3 times that, and you end up with 150 people dying because of this stuff. Imagine that. but it's the fear. It's not the actual death. GraphTech is one. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, I remember someone talking about this actually. GraphTech. Yeah, I'll take a look, but I'm not sure how is whether that's within my circle of competence though. All right, so that is everything for today, and for some reason I feel much better now than I was just an hour ago, and I wonder why I haven't figured this out a few days earlier though. Okay, any thoughts on reports of around 80% of the Chinese business running out of funds in next? Yeah, it's entirely true. A lot of the Chinese businesses are hanging by a string, and if this thing continues for another 3 months, they're all fucked. Like very very fucked. But then these machines will be there. It will take a few months to reorganize. Some will take over, and they will keep producing. Like, unless you scrap all the machines and tear down all the factories, the stuff remains. The productive capacity remains. Right, that's it. Good night, and I'll finish this bottle and go to bed. Oh, I'll go to. I don't. I'll go to. I won't go to work tomorrow. I will go to work on Wednesday, and that'll be the first time I see how the workplace is after this entire stuff. Tomorrow I have an interview with a startup incubator. Wish me luck. I know luck doesn't work, but regardless, bye. But I need to shut it down.